for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be discussing the men's Olympic soccer semifinals. We'll discuss full reaction to the Premier League preseason tours as they're starting or as they've concluded. We'll talk about Juventus's overhaul that they're going on under Thiago Motta, with 8 players being told to leave the club. We'll discuss the English FA giving approval to a foreign manager. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that y'all like and follow the show. Also, we got a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with the men's Olympic soccer semifinal reactions, and I'm pulling up the stats here from the 2 games. 2 interesting games, 2 late come from behind victories. When you look at Spain going down to Morocco in the first half, but having the perseverance and the resilience to fight back and not only get the goal to level it in around the 60th minute or so, but were able to get the winner late on. And then you had France, who went down to Egypt late into the game, but were able to find that equalizer right at the end after peltering England in terms of peltering Egypt in terms of chances created, but eventually were able to get that goal through Jean-Philippe Mateta late in that game, and then at the end, in extra time, Mateta being able to get on the end of a flicked header to make it 2-1. And then eventually, actually, they won that game 3-1, actually, because there was a goal late. Michael Elise was able to get that late goal to make it 3-1 to seal the deal for Egypt. After it was actually ricocheted. That actually got ricocheted while it was being cleared by the Egyptian defender, right into the path of Elise, and Elise was never, ever going to miss from there. And that set up the matchup that we get, France versus Spain, but specifically in regards to these 2 games, I would say was... I will say when it comes to the Spain Morocco game, Morocco has had a brilliant tournament, and it's very disappointing the way that they came off, because let's be real, they weren't exactly peppered. Like France against Egypt, they created a lot of opportunities, and they were very unlucky that they didn't equalize a lot earlier. In this game, Spain didn't create that many opportunities. Even in the second half, they had a few half chances here and there, few strikes at goal from distance, but no clear, real cut opportunity. It didn't look like the Spanish were really gonna be able to get that goal. But Aoulaoui, who's had a very good tournament for Morocco, he's in the perfect position to clear the ball. He instead tries to dribble, tries to make something out of it that shouldn't have even attempted, and it led straight to into the pass of Fermin Lopez, who again was never gonna miss from that sort of range. Just an easy opportunity for him, for a player that's had an amazing tournament so far. The talisman for Spain. He's had 4 goals this tournament. The future Barcelona star in the making, and that just brought Spain into the game. But even after that, it didn't seem like Spain, they didn't have them. I would say the best opportunity in that second half was Amir Richardson. Some clever play from Morocco, between Hakimi and Rahimi, and got into a dangerous position, and then Amir Richardson from an amazing position to strike a ball just slightly puts it wide of the post, and you know then Sanchez was able to strike it in the 85th minute in a position where he wasn't really in a huge threatening position for Morocco. He was kind of in a position that you more expected watching, or me watching it live, more expected him to whip it in across, to play it across the 6 yard park box to get on the end for a Spanish player to get on the end of it. It didn't really look like a great shooting opportunity there, but he was able to find the angles. Maybe you could say the goalkeeper was a little too tight to his near post, but it's a perfect shot because it's in one place. It's the one place that can pass the goalkeeper from there, right in that bottom corner across the face of goal. And he was able to blast it in. He put it in with real pace. And you see when people fire a ball with that sort of pace, with that sort of venom, they tend to not keep it accurate. It tends to affect the accuracy. But then it was perfect pace, perfect accuracy, 2-1. When Sanchez was speaking about it, he said, "The moment passed so fast that I didn't even realize it. But then when you realize that you scored the goal that puts your team in the final, well, I'm really happy." And we could see the celebrations was incredible from the Spanish players when they were able to get the goals. Especially because, look, the goals came while the opening goal for Morocco, really put a dent in the Spanish team. And in the second half, the goals came at a point that they needed it. Number one, this was a Moroccan crowd. Oh my goodness! Post game, whenever the final whistle blew, it was dead quiet. Whenever Spanish scores, it was dead quiet in terms of the stadium. It was an absolutely pro Moroccan crowd, which was shows the amazing support Morocco's had in general at these Olympic Games. But going back to that, conceding that early goal on a penalty. When Fermin Lopez got that a goal out of nothing, it was just like the perfect break. It was it's a huge relief type of break, a huge relief of a goal, because oh man, there was a lot of pressure on those Spanish players at that point. It was a huge sense of relief, because they weren't creating that much. They were able to get that goal, and then when you started to see players play with a little bit more confidence, just a little bit more, and then you saw the huge sense of relief. You saw the celebrations, Fermin Lopez, running into that corner of you could tell when the players understand, celebrated a little bit more. You can sense in their body language how fast that they run when they're celebrating. There's ways you can tell how much of a relief that moment was. And then when they were able to get the second goal, all the substitutes clearing the bench in complete bedlam just shows, and it puts Spain into the Olympic game finals, and they kind of have the chance to do a double this summer. Winning a European Championship and Olympic Games will be a great accomplishment for them. Let's go to the Egypt Uruguay game. I said Egypt France game. Again, huge heartbreak for Egypt to lose the game in the manner that they did. Again, going up early, but then suffering that late goal, and yeah, it was a really great game. It was a really fascinating game. Mateta, he was able to get the two crucial goals. Olise had the late goal that kind of sealed the deal. But this World Cup, this Olympic Games actually, with this France versus Spain game, it's gonna be the first time a European team will win the Olympic gold medal since in 32 years, which is crazy when you look at the dominance that there's been over European teams in World Cups in the past. They won every World Cup since 2000, and besides the one in 2024, 2022, they won every World Cup since 2002 or 2006. So, France, once they went down a goal early by Mahmoud Sabir, which kind of put them on a high alert, they were able to create a lot of opportunities. They hit the frame, they hit the post 3 times before the equalizer came in the 83rd minute. Lacazette had a lot of opportunities. He was going to be, I thought there was going to be huge criticism of them if they weren't able to win this game. Because there was, he's the guy came in to be the talisman, and he didn't take advantage of the opportunities when they came. But then Mateta, the ball was played to him. Little clever ball played into his path, the equalizing goal, and then near the end of the extra time, the Egyptian one of the Egyptian players, I believe it was their fullback. Let's go pull it up. I think it was Egypt's right back. Suffered a red card first he suffered a yellow card due to dissent, arguing whenever the referee initially called was gonna go review, but he didn't actually end up giving the penalty, but he still got a yellow card for the dissent beforehand, and then he makes a yellow card challenge straight into extra time, puts them in a point that the whole extra time that they're playing with 10 men in the French crowd. It was going to be really hard for them. They couldn't create much opportunities after going down a goal. They had one opportunity on a set piece, which was actually a good try by Zizou. But apart from that, they just didn't have enough to create those opportunities. And Michael Olise put it away at the end. And it's disappointing for Egypt. But again, Egypt, they were on the other side of this last game whenever they got the late goal to get past Paraguay. So, eventually your luck will run out. And France and Egypt's luck ran out. Now, we'll see about France, because now they get to play some true quality opposition against Spain. So, it'll be very interesting to see that one. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to the Premier League, a lot of the Premier League teams' preseason tours concluding.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on their fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about the men's Olympic soccer semifinals. We reacted to those games. We move on to do a kind of a overhaul sort of reaction to a lot of the Premier League preseason teams tours. A lot of them tour in America, and most of them, besides the ones that want to be weird, like Everton. Sean Dyche not wanting to do that. But yeah, it's there's been some interesting games, sort of. It's been a weird preseason. These sort of preseasons are always the difficult ones when you look at the fact that number one, a lot of players are going to be coming in late because of Copa America and European Championships, and at the same time, you have some players that are probably that could be at the Olympic Games as well, currently playing. So really, it's an interesting scenario, but it's still some of these teams, it's still proper that they need to get this preseason in. The teams that have new managers, it's kind of harder. It makes it even harder to have a proper preseason because you really need everyone there to implement your styles and all that. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for the teams like Liverpool and Chelsea. But yeah, we'll go deep by team by team. We'll start off with City, obviously. They had their preseason games. They took on. I believe they took on. Let me see. I'm trying to do this by memory. No, I'm not. Let's just search it up real quick. Actually, there's no way I know. So they took on Celtic, where they were lose to them 4-3. They lost to Milan 3-2. They lost to Barcelona on penalties 2-2. It was 2-2. They lost on penalties, and then they lose to Manchester. No, and then they beat Chelsea 4-2 in a game that Chelsea just gave them a few goals because of their new trying to play out of the back, all that. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Haaland was able to continue on good form. I think he had a hat trick against Chelsea. City and Chelsea actually play each other on the opening day of the season. Yay for Chelsea. Yeah, a lot of City's young players were able to, really be involved in this, preseason campaign, which is good. It's good for their future. The likes of James McCarty, Rico Willis, Wilson Esbrand, James McCarty. And, Guardiola was talking about how some of these players might be ready. A few of them will be ready for the senior team, which is good. That's what you want from these sort of preseason teams. You want to figure out, one of the more important things is to figure out which of these, youth players are ready to take that next step, But yeah, overall for Manchester City, these sort of preseason tours, that's all it is for them. Preseason tours, because, they've kind of, settled, and it's more important for the teams with new managers. Arsenal, they're able to add Calafiori into the team. That's the main thing, the biggest thing that happened for them in preseason. Being able to add Calafiori, give that versatile for a back line, brings in another guy to play versatile, multiple positions. He's going to make a huge difference. Also, Julian Timber, he's essentially a new signing in the fact that he's only played 3 games for Arsenal since he was signed by them. So he's essentially that's also a new signing, Julian Timber and Calafiori. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they mix and match with this back line, and whether or not that they go after a new player in this sort of window, if there's anything they deem necessary for them to take that next level to get past Manchester City, because it doesn't seem like City are gonna slow down, at least not for this following season. Liverpool, this is actually a team that I was interested in with preseason, because you want to understand, I wouldn't say I watched, my throat is itching. I couldn't really say I watched much of Feyenoord would under Arne Slot, because I don't watch Eredivisie. No respect to Eredivisie, just not something I've watched much. So something to be interested to sort of see his style of play. I've heard the rumblings about he's similar Dutch football in terms of possession oriented. But he does have a little bit of flexibility in the fact that we saw some, in this sort of preseason, they're not scared to go long and be a little bit more direct. What you saw how they got that first goal against Manchester United. They're not afraid to be a little bit more direct if necessary. Obviously, they'd like to be that possession-oriented Dutch football, like a lot of like Ten Hag wants to play, like Guardiola wants to play, all that. But he's a little bit more adaptable, a little bit more versatile, a little bit more flexible, which is very good, which is a very good trait. They won every single games that they played, and they also beat Arsenal and Manchester United. But let's be for real, it's preseason. We're not going to take it too seriously, the fact that they have a 100% record. But it's good that they're showing good signs, and the football looks pretty classy. Again, Darwin Nunez, McAllister, Luis Diaz, Alisson, Joe Gomez, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cody Gakpo, Virgil van Dijk, any player that was involved for the Euros and Copa America essentially have not been involved at all in this summer tour. So, we haven't seen much. But again, the main thing is they have to, it's important for Arne Slot to really, get all these players in that short amount of time that they have to the start of the season kind of equipped. And it'll be interesting. Chelsea are on a transition, as always, with Enzo Maresca coming in after he replaced Pochettino, who left at the end of last season. Enzo Maresca, he was able to get Leicester City back into the Premier League a year after they were relegated. Maresca is also known for possession-oriented football, and he's also he also really likes playing out of the back. He loves playing out of the back, and he's part of the reason why Chelsea are willing to sell Gallagher, and the fact that Gallagher doesn't really fit that sort of possession-based style of system. Gallagher, he does some things really, really well, but that's not sort of his game. He's not the most technical of players when it comes to players on that level. So yeah, Enzo Maresca, you could see what he's trying to do with Chelsea, and I don't mind it because Chelsea have looked a little bit of a mess so far in preseason, especially trying to play out of the back. They've looked so disoriented, playing out of the back. It's been almost embarrassing. They take on Real Madrid tomorrow, which I'll be tuning in more of. But yeah, they've looked so compromised trying to play out of the back. But it just, Enzo Maresca, he needs to be a little bit more adaptable, especially starting off the season with Chelsea, because you don't want to start off the opening season against Manchester City and lose 4-5-0. You don't want to do that. And I understand, managers, they want to come in and they want to, they don't want to put a plan B if plan A doesn't work. They just want to make plan A better. I remember Unai Emery, when he was first at Arsenal, that first season, they conceded a lot of goals trying to play out of the back because they didn't have center backs that were comfortable on the ball. They didn't have a goalkeeper that was comfortable on the ball, and they lost the possession of the ball in their own half many times. And Unai Emery was kind of at a crossroads. Okay, do I change my system because I don't have the players to do this, or do I just figure do I be just let them make the mistakes and eventually get the players in when the players come in. But Chelsea have had a lot of frustrating starts, and it's kind of weighed down throughout the season, the past 2 seasons. A frustrating start is weighed through them for the rest of the season. So I don't really think these set of players, and there's not enough experience with within this team to really start off the way that they've started off in the past and be able to rise above it They failed the last 2 seasons. They're more inexperienced now with Thiago Silva leaving the club. So, I think he has to be more adaptable with this team, especially when it comes to playing out of the back. Unless he believes some of the players that have not been involved because of Copa America, because of European Championship, because of Olympics, which Chelsea don't have anybody involved from the Olympic Games. Now that I think about it, yeah, nobody detrimental. So unless he thinks the players that haven't played up to this point can really make that difference, trying to play his sort of system, I think it's better if he's more adaptable. And then Manchester United, the main thing with them is, I'm not even worried about their preseason. Honestly, their preseason is whatever it is, whatever. It's the injuries in this team. I mean, 66 different injuries that United players suffered last season, and now, you start preseason. Højlund is out for 6 weeks. Lenioro, the new signing, the new center back that was going to come in and immediately be a starter, spending 62 million on him. He's ruled out for 3 months, more than just the start of the season, a majority of part of the first half of the season. You have the fact that Rashford, he suffered a nick. It's huge. These injuries, it's going to be huge. Lenioro puts them again at a very, delicate spot when it comes to their center halves, when it comes to their attackers. With Højlund being out, they don't really have a number 9. Joshua Zirkzee, okay, yes, he's a young guy with potential and all that, but this is a player that he was part of a Bologna team that was good, but he had 11 goals all season. The year before that, he had 2 goals in 19 matches. This is not a goal scorer. He's not going to come in and get double-digit goals for Manchester United. They'll be happy. That'll be a good outcome if he's able to get double-digit goals. That's not sort of his level at this point. He's a guy that you bring in to develop. He's similar to kind of Højlund. They don't have that recognized goal scorer that can come in and score goals game in, game out. I think there's big issues with Manchester United. And, it's up for Ten Hag to solve it, or else he'll be out of there. He'll be the first manager to go this Premier League season. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Juventus' overhaul under Thiago Motta, with 8 players being told that they need to leave.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we reacted to the Premier League preseason tours. We move on to discuss Juventus. They're kind of going to be on an overhaul under Thiago Motta, now that 8 players have been told that they're gonna leave. Juventus, they essentially banished 8 players from the first team as Thiago Motta is coming in after leading Bologna to a top 4 team, to a top 4 position. Led them, made them better than the sum of their parts. Really good manager, in terms of he made it, and now he has this sort of vision that he's creating for Juventus, and he doesn't believe these 8 players belong, and it's included some players that have actually been, important for them when you look at Szczesny over the past few seasons being their goalkeeper, number one goalkeeper. Chiesa, who hasn't came in and really lit it up at Juventus. That's been a disappointing thing. McKennie, who's actually been one of their more consistent midfielders over the past few years. He hasn't been great, but he's been consistent and he's been solid for them. He's been pretty solid for them. McKennie, Cilio, who's kind of an older player. Dicilio, Matteo Dicilio, Arthur Melo, who no surprise there. Rugani, Daniele Rugani, Filip Kostic, and Hans Nicolosi, Caviglia. And these are players that are, that they've been eliminated, they've been removed from the Juventus team shop, and it's pretty clear that they're trying to get these guys out of there. They're forcing them out. They don't want them involved, and I don't understand this sort of rhetoric and how they're making it so clear, because most of these guys, okay, I understand, like Szczesny, Dicilio, Rugani, some of these players, Arthur Melo, some of these players, you don't have real value in them at all. So, there's no point in you just trying to force them out. But guys like Weston McKennie and Chiesa, those are players that, I'm not going to say, you're not going to get ridiculous money for them. No, you're not. But they have some value. They have value. I think Weston McKennie, is a 30, around the 35 million, sort of euros type of player. Chiesa, maybe a little bit in, that, I think Chiesa is around the 35 million as well, sort of range, despite, his form being really, really poor since that European Championship. He's still only 26, and there's raw ability there if a manager is able to get it out of him. But yeah, Chiesa, McKennie, these are players that have some value to them. They're not exactly like, they're not like an Arthur Melo, which, they have no value to them at all. These are, so I don't understand coming out and, with the Juventus eliminating them from the Juventus shop, Thiago Motta coming out saying they're done. I don't understand that, because why limit the value of players that there's no need. There's not need that. I mean, it's unnecessary. When Thiago Motta, is during the press conference, he was speaking after the 2-2 friendly that they had against Brest. He said they're out of the project and they have to find a new club. We are convinced this is the best decision possible. Chiesa, he's the most known player on this list for sure. He came in and he was, we thought he was going to be the poster boy for Juventus. He was going to be their talisman, their star for the next 10, 15 sort of years coming in. He had a brilliant European Championship, but he's just never able to get kicked on. He never had that sort of level of consistency. He never had those big time moments that he had at the European Championship, because honestly, he's a player with pace, electric. He has a rocket of a shot on him. He can curl it. He's a great finisher. He's very versatile, very direct, and he's a living nightmare to play against when he's at his best. But when the confidence is down, when he's not playing game out, he's suffered a lot of injuries, never had a consistent run inside the team. He had that big ACL injury as well, and he just hasn't been the same. And I just think a new place for him is going to be better. Maybe the Juventus sort of atmosphere is just not good, not doing good for sort of, prospect. It's just not been good for him. And when I had serious, problems with Chiesa, not problems, but when I knew, okay, Chiesa, this is, there's something wrong. Sometimes, you could just be at the wrong place, wrong time, and just need a change of scenery. And this European Championship came and he wasn't exactly at it as in the European Championships. Now, I thought against Albania, he's actually really good, really lively. Had one shot that just curled a little bit past the goal. Had a nutmeg and created an opportunity off of that. Was very direct and had some moments in there. But apart from that, the rest of the tournament, he ended up getting benched in that third game. after he was a complete no-show against Spain. So yeah, Chiesa is a sort of player that can, that has potential still. I still believe in the raw ability, and I just think he needs a totally, change of place. Totally new change of scenery. Weston McKennie, he's an interesting one in the fact that, I believe he was actually up there for most assists for Juventus last season, which is crazy. Shows the lack of creativity amongst this Juventus team. But he's sort of a player that, he's very versatile. He can play kind of in the attacking midfield, right under the striker. He can, he can play in the holding midfielder role. He can play as an 8. His best position as an 8 when he has, the freedom to make late runs into the box, but also is a little bit more deeper because he has the ability to drive with the ball in midfield. But it just seems that, his level is really maybe just not quite at Juventus, to be that sort of midfield. Because it's a Juventus, the midfielders of the past would be players like, Andrea Pirlo. Those are the sort of players that they've had in midfield over the past few years. They've had some, a Nedved, they've had some brilliant players in midfield. So, they just don't see Weston McKennie at that level. It's been some disrespect towards him because I don't think he's been awful. And I think the way that he's been treated right now and the way, he's been talked about, he has not been awful for them. He's been a starter for them, despite, not really being at that level. He played 34 matches in Serie A last season. Year in, year out, he's playing 30-plus games for Juventus. He had 7 assists last season. No goals, but 7 assists. He had a pretty decent season. And I believe he can go somewhere else and can be a important part of a team. I don't think... I don't know if the right place will be a top side. I think he needs to go to a place that he's playing game in, game out. I think he'd be good for like a mid-table team in the Premier League. Something of that level. I think he could be a very, very good, very, very important player for that sort of team. But yeah, I think. I do think the treatment of him has been bad when it comes to him at Juventus. But I believe in his ability, and I hope he comes back and bounces back stronger, whatever he deems is the next move for him next season. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to discuss the English FA giving approval for England to go ahead and get a foreign manager.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
For the break, we discussed Juventus's overhaul under Motta, with 8 players being told to leave. We move on to react to the English FA giving approval to a foreign manager coming in. So let's go to those reports. So yeah, the English FA, they've made a huge decision in approving that a foreign manager can come in which completely changes sort of the coaching search for them, changes the way how we're gonna perceive this coaching take now, coaching decision. Because number one, it's kind of if they go with the English manager, it's gonna huge the sort of criticism, throughout this. Number one, they've came out and said this, if they signed an English manager after this, someone like a Lee Carley that's already involved in the setup, or a Graham Potter, a little bit more so with Eddie Howe, because I believe Eddie Howe is a guy that a lot of people will have confidence in. But if they went with another English manager, and despite them coming out with this sort of statements, the criticism is going to be huge. You decided to go with this guy when you had this guy available, you could have got Tuchel, Pochettino, yada yada, all these sort of foreign managers. You were okay with making that change, but you decided to go with him. The criticism is going to start even before he's managed his first game, and then when he manages his game, it's going to get, when he's coaches and one or two things go wrong, it's going to come worse and worse and worse and worse. So I don't really understand coming out with this, with this publicly, unless you really think, okay, foreign manager is probably the way that they're what we believe is best. Because I really believe the English FA believe, okay, they're going to go with the foreign manager if they're coming out with this sort of statement. And also, I believe they're coming out with this sort of, with this rhetoric to kind of gauge, what the fans think, what the media might think about this sort of route for them. So right now, the English FA, they're currently searching for a manager after Gareth Southgate. He resigned after the England were defeated by Spain in the final of the European Championship, this upcoming European Championship. Southgate, his contract is supposed to run till the end of the year, but since he resigned early, the FA board is looking right now to find the replacement. Eddie Howe, he's been one of the favorites. Graham Potter, we've talked about Lee Carley. A lot of people talked about Jurgen Klopp, but let's be for real, there was no real chance of that happening. He came out himself and said, no, I'm retired. With Klopp, so you have Tuchel, Pochettino. Those are the main real foreign guys that people were talking about, but beforehand, but they didn't really get huge sort of talk about them, because we didn't believe, not many people really thought that the English FA want to go the foreign route because of the way that they've developed St. George's in terms of the players coming up, in terms of developing not just players, but developing coaching talent, coaching youth. Gareth Southgate, he started off as St. George's. Actually, he actually came in originally as head of youth talent initiative or something of that sort of title. He graduated into some of the youth teams and eventually got himself up to the national team. And they value developing coaches, so they don't want to undermine all this work that they've done in terms of what they've done at St. George's and just go, oh nah, we're gonna ignore this, and we're not gonna get someone involved with the FA. We're gonna go with the foreign manager. But that seems like that's what they're gonna do, and I think it's probably the correct decision. I don't think you need to fit some sort of narrative that you're trying to continue to push, or some sort of agenda that you have. I believe this set of players, the set of talent you have, you want to maximize them and bring in the best manager. And I think the best manager is a foreign manager at this point. I mean, Eddie Howe, that could be actually really, really good. And I think he'll be up there with the foreign managers like a Tuchel and a Pochettino. But by the way, England, they've had foreign managers. In the history, it's been very rare. It's been essentially against their tradition. But in terms of recent history, going back to about the 2002, the last. Okay, well, actually, so let's go with the previous. So there's been Southgate. I'm not including these interim managers like I believe Allardyce or whatever. I'm not gonna include those. I'm talking about the main ones. So there's been Southgate, Roy Hodgson, and then Capello. I believe before Capello, there was a manager that was there involved 1 year. He was the manager. He's the manager for Jamaica now. He just got announced as the manager of Jamaica like a few days ago. So I forgot his name, but there's that. And then I think it was Sven-Goran Eriksson. So from the last 5 mainstream sort of managers, 2 of them have been foreign. So they've not been, reluctant in terms of recent history. In terms of greater recent history, obviously 2002 is not recent, but in terms of how long the FA has been around, 2002 is fairly recent. So, Sven-Goran Eriksson, he reached the quarterfinals. Fabio Capello, he reached around the 16. There was a lot of, negative media attention around the team with Capello, though. But, what's been talked about the board's discussion and that's really affected them is the way Sarina Wiegman, the Dutch coach, has been able to be successful in England, being able to lead them to the 2022 European Championship. And she's been used as an example of some of the positives that can be for hiring a foreign coach. So I do believe getting the best coach is necessary. Whether you believe it's England or foreign, just get the best coach. And I think Pochettino, he's a good option. He hasn't really been able to translate that in terms of trophies in the club scene, but he'll handle the press really, really well. He's a professional. He's a top tactician. He has a great knowledge of football. He's a really excellent coach. And you think, okay, this is a tournament style. This is an international game. Maybe that different element to him we could see, a different Pochettino in terms of a more ruthless one, this is a manager that can win trophies at this sort of level, a change in the way that we perceive him in terms of winning that game. But I believe in terms of the football, the tactics and all that, really, really good manager. Tuchel, that's also an interesting one. And this is a Tuchel that's had success in tournaments, which is very, very important because most of your major games that you're going to coach as an international manager, they're all in tournaments. They're the World Cups. They're the European Championships. And Thomas Tuchel, he's won a Champions League with Chelsea. He's reached another final with Manchester United, not Manchester United, with PSG. He's been in 2 Champions League finals. He's won 1. In these tournaments, he's not afraid to make that sort of ruthless decision, to leave this guy out, to change it up, to adjust in-game tactically, to be ruthless. He has that nature to him. He has that sort of persona to be, actually no, he does not have the persona to be an English manager, because English managers, they've preferred that yes man sort of manager. Yes man, like Gareth Southgate a bit. But I think what he is in terms of the personality he brings, he can get these England players in a different mentality too. I think he'll love the players of this England team. He's worked with Harry Kane. I think he would love the ability of this team. I think he'd be willing to take this job, and the fact that he talks about how the treatment of him in England is just much better. The fans are better in England than Germany and all that. I really, 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 really believe this could be a perfect fit. He's a good tactician. He's a ruthless manager. I think his personality is what England need. England managers in the past, they've been sort of lifeless. They've been boring. This is not boring. This is a manager that's gonna come in. He's gonna be entertainment. He's not gonna be afraid to be real with the press. I think he's literally the perfect thing. And I think England, they keep going with the same approach, getting these sort of managers that are just here to keep everything, safe, to keep everything in the bubble, to not have negative relations with the media, to be just the proper behaving on the sideline, on the pitch line, all that. That same sort of style. But those sort of managers have never been able to get you over the top. They've never been a good enough pure manager. So I think Tuchel will be an excellent option. But there's multiple, foreign managers, and honestly, you look at past managers that have won these major trophies, Spain with Luis de la Fuente. It's a guy that came up the youth rank. Yes, he plays positive football, but every Spanish coach is gonna come in and play the same sort of football. It's their behavior, it's their nature, it's their fundamentals. I'm interested. It's going to be an interesting race, and I think it's a decision that, based on these comments, could really get criticized if they don't go the foreign manager route. Unless, I believe, if they get Eddie Howe, I think Eddie Howe is a sort of, he's a good enough tactician that I think fans will really get behind it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't, because if Eddie Howe was going to leave for the English managerial job, it would have happened by now. There's no way he's going to leave this late into the summer or throughout the season. He's not going to do that. If he was really, if England were realistically set to hire him, they would have offered him the job straight after the Euros or really soon after the Euros. And just because, out of respect to Newcastle, you don't want to put them in that dangerous position where they're chasing a manager with a few weeks left in the season. That's just crazy. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we reacted to the English FA giving approval to a foreign manager. We move on. It's time to react to the top soccer headlines. And we have to start off with Nicolas Füllkrug. The German striker. West Ham have signed 31-year German international Nicolas Füllkrug for around 27.5 million euros. He came in, he signed a 4-year contract, and West Ham, they actually tried to sign Füllkrug when he was at Werder Bremen, but the 31-year-old wanted to move to Borussia Dortmund instead, where he's had a decent campaign. He scored 15 goals in 43 matches for them. But now Füllkrug, he's gonna be a Juventus player. Füllkrug, speaking about it, said, "I'm delighted to be here, and I can't wait to get out on the pitch with my new teammates. I think the Premier League is the best league in the world, and for me, it's the right time to move over to England and play for a big club like West Ham. I've been thinking about West Ham for a long time now. I know the technical director, Tim Steiden, very well because we have history at Werder Bremen together, and I've watched them some games and seen how much quality there is in the team. The chance to play under head coach Julian Lopetegui is also really exciting. His play style is important for me, and I'm confident that under him I'll be able to perform at my best and score lots of goals. I love being close to supporters, and I'm really looking forward to meeting the West Ham fans. I have a very good feeling at the moment. I'm strong, fit, and in shape, and I just want to get out there and start playing for them." They've had a huge summer, and this is their fifth signing. They also were able to sign Max Kilman, Luis Guilherme, Wes Foderingham, and Chrysnesio Somerville, the Leeds player, who's had a very good season. So, and there's also, a lot of rumors that they're going to be able to get Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and they're also in advanced talks to sign Guido Rodriguez, who's going to be a free agent since he left Real Betis in the summer. But Fulkrug, he's a good player. I think he's gonna be a starter for West Ham. I think he's gonna immediately be their best number 9. He can score the goal. He's very direct. He can play with back to goal, get players involved in play. He's a very good player. He's an old school sort of number 9, and he's proven his what he's been able to do has proven that the number 9 still exists, and I really really like how he plays. I think he's gonna be a threat in set pieces. I think he's going to be a handful for center backs. Those are the sort of players that center backs, tend to not want to play because they can get on the end of things. They're very, very scrappy. And I think there's going to be a lot of moments late in games that he kind of saves West Ham because of his ability to just get on the end of crosses, to be at the right place at the right time, to tuck it into the back of the net. That's his sort of, style. And it's gonna be fascinating. It's gonna be really really fascinating to see him in the Premier League. I think the Premier League fits him. We move on to the next sort of news. Tim Ream, he's gonna move to Charlotte. That deal is in the final stages. Gallardo, he's gonna return to River Plate. Marcelo Gallardo, he's gonna be returned to them. If you know Marcelo Gallardo, he's a brilliant Argentinian football manager. He was managing Al Ittihad this following season after having 8 successful years at River Plate. He's gonna go back to River Plate after just 1 season at Al Ittihad. I guess the bag wasn't enough. Simmons, he's gonna be going back with Leipzig amid interest from other clubs like Bayern. Bayern, they were hoping of signing Xavi Simmons, but instead he's extended his loan at Leipzig for PSG. It's going to be another loan deal, and the 21-year-old, he's going to complete a medical on Monday, and then he's going to train individually, and then he's going to join the rest of the team on Tuesday. But yeah, Bayern have been very, very interested for him, but I just think right now he wants to enjoy Xavi Simmons, the good form he's in at Leipzig, and he wants to continuing playing game in and game out. I think he goes to Bayern, and I'm not gonna say he's gonna be a bench player or anything, but it's a team with a lot of attacking talent with Coman, Sane, Kane, Michael Olise coming in. He's not gonna get the 35-40 appearances that he will get out of Leipzig, continuing to develop, continuing to increase his value, continuing to become the player that his potential can lead him to become. So overall, I think it's a good decision by him. Champions League qualifying, Galatasaray will take on Young Boys in the playoffs to reach the Champions League. Galatasaray, there was drawn actually on Monday that they'll be playing against Young Boys, who are in the qualifying ground to move on. The Swiss League has actually already started. They've played 3 games, and Young Boys are actually last. Or they've played 3. Some teams have played 4 games. Or Young Boys and Servette has been the only 2 teams that played in 4 games. The rest of them have only played 3. And they find themselves last in that league with 1 win. 1 win and... No, with 1 draw, no wins. With 1 draw and 3 losses, they only have 1 in 4 games. Only scoring 4 goals, conceding 11. Really, really poor form. And that's who Jose Mourinho and Galatasaray need to play to advance to the Champions League. This is going to be a new Champions League format with 36 teams. So that's also going to be very, very interesting to see how that pans out. Galatasaray, actually, they've been, they haven't had a good start to the season as well. They lost 5-0 on Saturday in their domestic Super Cup when they took on Besiktas. Galatasaray did. That's a really bad start. Losing to your rival 5-0 in the Super Cup. I didn't watch the game exactly, so I don't know exactly how it went, what happened exactly. The Super League is set to start for them in a few days now. So, yeah, we'll see. This is a Galatasaray last season that, not Galatasaray, when I said Jose Mourinho, I made a mistake on that. I meant to say Galatasaray were drawn Monday against Young Boys, not Jose Mourinho. I mean, Jose Mourinho's coaching Besiktas. I made a mistake on that. But Galatasaray, they drew. I was right about everything, but I mentioned Jose Mourinho's name. I got confused there. No, Jose Mourinho is the head coach of Fenerbahce. They actually took on FC Lugano from Switzerland in that in their tie to reach the Champions League, and they were able to get past them, beating them 2-1. They take on Partizan for a spot into the Champions League. They don't take on Partizan. They take on Lille to move on. So in the third round of the Champions League. Well, Galatasaray, they take on Young Boys. Yeah, confusing there. That's very, very confusing. Clubs selling academy players are due to these new PSR rules that Maresca has talked about, the profit and sustainability rules. That's also an interesting topic, and it's been a big topic recently. So there's going to be more. We're going to talk about that more later on. These new PSR rules, or these rules that are starting to become a little bit more, tough. Scamacca, he's had ACL surgery, and he's going to be out 6 months after suffering season-ending an ACL injury, the ACL ruptured, the dreaded torn ACL, and it's a bad sign for him because what he needed was a consistent run of games to develop that consistency at Atlanta, but now it comes at the worst moment. So yeah, really bad news for him, and big rehab coming for Scamacca. That's the end of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to... Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that